All right, off to a great start. I don't know why that was muted. That should never be muted. I did not mute that. Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new concept that I wish I could take credit for, but that would be wrong. This is, all credit to my wife for this idea today, but she was leaving for an event that she's doing for her dance company. The dance company she's dancing for. She's like, hey, why don't you do like I can't think of the word, like you play old videos. And I was like a rehash. I've been doing that. And then she texted me and she's like, no, like a reaction. And I was like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. So I came up with this idea of going through some of the older videos that you guys may not either have known me here on Rumble or on YouTube. I might not have been allowed to talk about, and I might have been banned at the time. And so we're going to go through. It's going to be an interesting format. I'm going to play the video, but I'm going to keep myself on the screen, and I may from time to time pause it because some of this information has updates or some of it's been, disproven or proven or whatever the case might be. If there's something new, I'll be able to pause it and inject my, my commentary, whatever the case might be. And I think it'll be a good, fun time. It will help get new information out there to the YouTube audience that may not have seen this over on Rumble. And I've got a ton of content to get out there between my own podcast, between some of the Why We Vote podcasts I do with Ash in America over on Badlands Media. I think it'll be a lot of fun to go through and do some of these. So I've got a few segments for tonight, and I think it's a good one to start on. One of the interviews I'm going to play tonight is an interview I did with Kurt Olson, an attorney who's now, I think his exact title, I'm going to butcher this, but I think he's a special government employee and advisor to the president on elections. So I could be butchering that, but he's basically President Trump's right-hand man right now on elections. And so I've been fortunate enough to do several interviews with Kurt over the years, Ash and I, and myself as well, by myself as well. And so we'll go through that interview, one of those interviews tonight, and then we'll do some more follow-ups as the days and the weeks go on. And again, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity for me to put more content out there, and stuff that I've got a very I've got a crazy schedule between my Badlands schedule, my Gateway, writing, and then trying to put together my own content. So this will help me out a lot as we go here. I'm still seeing audio in the chat. Am I 5x5 now? I think I'm good now. I think you guys might have been just like a little delayed there, but just to check in, I'm pretty sure I'm good now. So before we get moving, I'll wait for that 5x5. In the meantime, mypillow.com, promo code CanCon. Check that out. Holiday season's coming up. Get your family some Giza Dream Sheets, some of the MyPillow slippers, just the MyPillow itself. Just absolutely incredible products. Absolutely love them. All right, I'm getting the 5x5. I've got the link down below for mypillow.com as well as My Shroom Vibe, another company that I absolutely love. And there it is, Redneck Renegade 03 coming out and making me smile right off the rip. How about them Packers? Go, baby, go. How about them Packers, baby? Go, Pack, go. Yeah, heck yeah, man. We looked like crap, but, without Josh Jacobs and with Jordan Love getting hurt mid-game, that was pretty good. Malik Willis is still... Man, is he the best backup in the NFL? Is he? I mean, last season he came in the clutch. I guess maybe, I don't know. There's a few teams that have been running backups, so maybe not the best, but he's a good guy to have on the bench if Love gets popped and can't play. So, all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first one. And the first set of this first kind of story that I want to start off with, is a story that I broke thanks to my friends over at the Election Oversight Group back in, let's see when this was. This was 3 years ago, and I don't know the exact date on it, but this was 3 years ago that I broke this story. And this is poll pads in Dallas County, Texas, that were incrementing as they gone on. And now I've got 3 clips to show you here. So this is the first clip, and let's sit back and watch this together.
Just tripping, sitting here, we're doing nothing, and our numbers are just going.
What is it?
1 minute.
1 minute.
So the machine's like, Nancy, you really beat me. I'm only at 600 and something. And I was never anywhere near that.
I'm 1,089 now.
What you're seeing right now is their pull pads are randomly going up on their own.
The last time I like put a number in here, it was 642. My number now it's at.
I mean, that's even
now
more
it just
funny.
jumped again. Now it's at 8.
First jumped from 300 to 900, and I only have 600. I'm still losing.
I'm now at 817.
I'm at 1149.
So, oh my gosh, so what does that mean? But what does
That
that mean
means
to
that
the tabulator in there?
Jackie, that means that they are literally rigging the switch. It's this. We're watching it be rigged.
Oh, almond joy.
Almonds, if you want some.
I mean, like the last few minutes
We're done.
Our machines aren't done.
Our machines aren't done.
I did, and I've been taking it progressively.
Take my money, Nancy.
I'm video
Oh, okay.
as it's jumping.
I wanted to hear all this.
Yep.
Like right here. Thank you. It says that it just jumped again.
Nobody is voting. Nobody's checking these people in.
What's going on now?
All the numbers are jumping.
What numbers?
The last time I checked it.
1149.
I'm not sure that was accurate because it should have only been. What's 8 times? What's 8 times 50?
Yes, I'm afraid you're too late.
40. It should have been 400. So I should have had 400 in here, and it had 6, and so it had 647, which is both.
Was that your code?
I wish I could see.
But if you're sitting here, somebody else, you have to check in.
So you walked in, cut it in mine. Yeah.
I watched last and it's 7 o'clock. Pull the voting thing in.
So babe, so what's your total number now, Nancy?
1203.
And it's to what? There should be 300 in this machine, and she's at 1200.
300.
And it's
She's
closed.
at 1200.
And it's closed and it's still jumping.
You got a weird machine there.
It just
I
jumped.
think it's happening to
It just jumped
everybody.
another 100 on me.
The polls are closed at this point. It just jumped another 100. Closed.
They're 100%.
Yep.
Trying to steal the election. There's no other.
There's no other way.
They're feeding.
They're feeding the ballots in after hours, and it started right at 6:45. I seen it
started at exactly.
6:45.
It's connected to the internet. The machine in there is not doing anything. 2461. Yeah, I do know. It's so scary. Yes.
Very scary.
Bring back paper.
I'm telling you.
It was a pain, but geez, it didn't do this stuff.
I'm sorry. Like, if this election doesn't get contested, like I'm gonna lose my mind.
I know.
mean, we're all physically watching it being.
Well, it's going to be contested because they were already saying that there was not going to be any results
But that's what
tonight.
they're trying to do.
Yeah, it was going to go over a week.
Oh, really? You made it. I've now not exceeded 1,027.
And what did you do?
300 and something.
What is she at?
You're watching this machine increment. It just went from 1191 to 1259, right before our very eyes.
I'm sitting here and it was 200 and something.
Okay, so there we go. We got that video there. Now, so that video, again, I believe that was Dallas County, and that was sent to me. I was watching it, and you know, the only thing I could think of, because there's never been one person, one vote I saw in the chat said that, said, I love this video. Never heard any explanation from the so-called election experts on why this happened. Neither did I. And I wrote a couple articles about it for the Gateway Pundit. I got fact-checked, you know, by, I think it was Lead Stories. I'm going to play this clip here in a second on that. I did get fact-checked on it. And again, no explanation, just the typical experts say that everything was fine in this election and this was normal processes and everything else. That's not normal. Okay, you got these each poll pad check-in is unique to a particular election worker, right? They come through there, check in, and then they go vote. And so, I think one of the excuses he said was, oh, they were just catching up. They were just catching up. But you have the poll workers there that were saying, no, they weren't catching up. I didn't have 1,200 people. I didn't have 1,200 people come through here. I only had 300 or 400. So now it says 1,200. Now, the only thing, and again, this is just pure like theorizing here, what could have happened here. I believe, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this election was on November 8th, this particular election. I think this is 2022. And I think this was a very interesting election because it occurred on the backside of daylight savings. And so there was some theories about, was there some sort of a hiccup where the machine didn't account for daylight savings and it started incrementing during the polls being open rather than in the comfort of its own box once it's put away later on after they've closed the polls out. I don't know. That was just a theory because these things, once they're stored in their box, they still have a battery backup to them. So they still have, a like a trickle kind of power going to them. So this could be done, when nobody's looking. I again, that's just a theory, but we didn't get any answers. So, when I had done the research on this, I went to the Secretary of State's website in Texas and could not find any certification acknowledgement for these systems. They had not been certified. It was not published. Now they say, oh, we did certify, but we didn't publish it. Well, you know what? There's rules and laws for a reason, and you have to publish that. And retroactively publishing something is not good enough, right? This is the same thing we went through with the Pro V&V when they were expired in 2017. They're like, oh, we just forgot to update it because of COVID. No, COVID didn't hit in 2017. That excuse, might hunt with SLI, but it doesn't hunt with Pro V&V. And so, that's just kind of the thing. That's kind of the modus operandi of these election institutions is they just come back and they say, like, nothing to see here. You're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. Let me go ahead and kick you off of YouTube. All right, let's jump into the next story here. And this is about the fact check. And let me back up to the beginning here. And I apologize for the dramatic intro, but, I had to make it appealing. I can see how much of that fact check I can read. Fact check. Texas election poll pads not caught adding hundreds of voters in real time as polls are being closed. I don't know how much more evidence you can have than a video of the election workers that were watching the machines, catching them, incrementing after the polls were closed in real time. I don't understand this headline. And the idea that this is a fact check. Are you freaking kidding me? It says, were poll pads in Texas caught adding hundreds of votes in real time as a poll was being closed? No, that's not true. Your eyes deceive you. These are not the poll pads you are looking for. The state certified ES&S, state certified. It was not state certified. It was not state certified. The state certified ES&S voting system e-poll books in Dallas County, Texas, previously experienced, quote, some delay in the downloading of checked-in voters and then caught up, according to Texas Secretary of State. Quote, the updating of poll book numbers, even after polls have closed, is normal behavior for an electronic poll book, says an ES&S spokesperson. Okay, so I've read to you the opening to that article, their claim. Okay, they don't really back it up. They just get some people in there to say, this is perfectly normal, and that's the fact check, right? That's the fact check. But I actually got one of the whistleblowers that was working that poll to talk about it and what happened. All right. So here's testimony from two of the clerks that witnessed this with their own eyes. Now, let me just go back to the reaching out for clarification or whatever. If you're going to go out there and you're going to, so if I write a story about somebody and it's not something, it's an accusation, right? It's standard journalistic practice to reach out for comment, give them the opportunity to make a comment, right? And I do that all the time. Usually give them anywhere from 12 to 24 hours, or maybe 6 hours, but then you go back and edit it if they finally respond. They never reached out to me ever, and they never do. I've been fact checked by them. USA Today fact checked me one time. Excuse me. USA Today fact checked me one time on an article I wrote in El Paso County, Colorado, and USA Today decided that my explanation of the article I wrote, they weren't going to use anything that I wrote back to them. Maybe one day I'll pull this in the next recap. I'll pull up the actual email and show you what they asked me, what they wrote, and what I wrote them in response. So you can see how fake and gay the mainstream media actually is.
We made it. I've now exceeded 1,027.
And what did you have?
300 and something.
I was an actual clerk at that election site. I was not filming. I was probably like 4 or 5 people down. We had about 10 poll workers working. And I was just going back and looking at the pictures that I took. I took just 4 pictures from my poll book. I think, I don't know the exact number. I should have known that, but I checked in less than 300 the entire day. But, starting at 6:45 or whatever, I noticed, wow, I just went up to, like, the shot that I took was 876. Then it went up to 919, and then I finished at 1049. And this was after 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock, everything should have been done. We should have been able to just shut those things down, but we kept them on, and the numbers just kept going up. It was crazy.
So let me just get this straight. So you were working on that particular poll pad the whole day. You started out at 300, or excuse me, you said you took about 300 people?
Yeah, less than 300.
And then by the end of the night, your poll pad showed 1,049.
Correct. I've worked many elections, and we've never seen anything like that before.
I've worked many elections, and we've never seen anything like that before.
All right, so
if everything was catching up, it would have already been catching up, if you will. And what's it catching up to? Our numbers should be the same as what I have, and my numbers were the exact same all day. And when I say as what I have on my paper ledger, where I'm writing everyone's name down, right? My number matches my poll book. My friend's number matches her poll book.
So
everybody's number.
Yeah, let me interrupt you there for just a second, because what you just said is extremely important. So in addition to checking them in on the poll book, you were also writing them down on a handwritten ledger?
Yes.
And so that number correlated with what you were showing before this anomaly occurred.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So it's really hard for me to understand how you can say this is the system catching up, when all day long my numbers match, my handwritten numbers, okay, match what's on the screen.
You've got somebody like you now that's saying it's an update, but you're saying, no, I'm keeping a hand ledger. I know how many people I checked in. To misrepresent my check-ins by hundreds of votes at the end of the night, that is an anomaly. That needs an explanation more than this is normal and it's an update, because that is a flat-out lie.
It is a flat-out lie. We ended up back at the Dallas County Republican Party headquarters that evening, signing affidavits where they told us they would actually do something about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We know where that will go anyway, but we did do that. Okay. When we get there are other people from other precincts saying the exact same thing happened to them at the exact same time. One lady was smart enough to go into her voter. She only had, I think she said she had like 75 or so people come in on her roster. So she actually was able to go in and see that there were names in there that they had not checked in at that location that day.
Well, so this is something that we should be able to do, and this would be a remedy to this situation. We should be able to, go into your precinct, look at all the voters, take your poll book, since you have a hand ledger, take your poll book. All right. Take your poll book, audit all of the voters in that poll book, compare them with your ledger. And then the ones that aren't on your handwritten ledger, let's call them and let's ask them, did you vote? Yep. Did you come into this precinct and vote? Because you're showing up as voted. And I guarantee you'll probably have a lot of pissed off Dallas residents.
Right. I agree with you.
But they don't want to actually do that. They just want to have lead stories write a fact check like this and say it's fake news. We'll take it. Everybody will take it on its face. People will go and they'll read my story and they'll be like, oh, Gateway Pundit can't be credible. Look, lead stories fact check them. It's disgusting.
I agree with you 100%. It is disgusting, and it's sad that people can't see past. They immediately say, here's another story. So this must be the truth.
Right.
Because they actually don't want to know the truth, because it's disgusting to know the truth that both sides are cheating.
Yep.
Both sides are cheating, and that's the truth.
100%. So, but before I let you go here, you read the lead stories fact check. You read my article. You lived it. You were there at the polls. One of the poll workers that is cited in this. Who's right, me or lead stories?
Oh, 100%. Brian is right.
Thank you so much.
Is right.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the first two stories there, and full disclosure, I'm not watching these before I do this with you guys. So this is a reactionary video. I made this video 3 years ago. I don't remember everything that I talked about in it, and so I'm proud of myself because I thought the same thing I thought back then. Like, why don't we take your hand marked log, take the poll book that you were on, and go and start calling the people? Yes, I am live right now, Aeolus. Why don't we start calling the people right now and ask them, hey, did you vote? Because my poll pad just showed that you checked in as a voter. And you got to remember, this is a precinct in Texas, so they don't have, like Arizona's ballot on demand, where you've got voters from around the county that you can pull into. This is only going to be people in that precinct. So there's a very limited number of people that, they can use to put into these polls. So, it's interesting, and nothing ever came of it. But like I said, we got fact checked on it. We got fact checked. I wonder if I put the link for the fact check in here. I might have. No, I did not. Let me see if I could find that fact check real quick. Let me see if they've kept it up. Sometimes they take them down. Yep, here it is. Fact check. Poll pads used in Dallas are not using outdated software version. I read you guys the first paragraph. Let's see if they've changed anything. Let me put this side by side with the video. Stand by for 1 second, guys. I'm gonna put it side by side and see if they changed anything. All right, so there's the fact check video, or the fact check where the poll pads. And let me just pull it aside. I'll look at it side by side. Here is the lead stories article, and I'll pull this up over here, and I'll just give it a quick once over to see if they changed anything. Are they Express? Is this the same story? Because they changed everything. They did change everything. Okay, so you guys, here's what I need you guys to do. You guys right now should be looking at the fact check story. Okay? Yeah, you guys are looking at the lead stories fact check, right? Let me zoom in as far as I can on this first paragraph right here. Okay? This one right here. And let me read to you guys what they originally wrote and then what they edited it to. So this is what they wrote in the video that I have. Were the poll pads in Texas caught adding quote unquote hundreds of voters in real time as a poll was being closed? No, that's not true. The state certified ES&S voting system, e-poll books in Dallas County, previously experienced, quote, some delay in the downloading of checked in voters and then caught up, according to the Texas Secretary of State. the updating, quote, the updating of poll book numbers even after polls have closed is normal behavior for an electronic poll book, said an ES&S spokesperson. And I'll just show you guys. This is what it said. This is on the video.
Went up to.
Okay. And then what they actually wrote in the story, I'll bring it back over here, are the express poll book devices used in Dallas County for the 2022 general election operating on out-of-date software. Did they change the whole story, or am I mean, it's the same exact. No, it's not the same. Okay, so maybe this is a different story. Okay. So to be fair, this could be a different story. Okay, it was a different story. So thank God I thought that was a way too crazy for them to make that bold of a change. All right. So again, I'm going to read. I've got the story as it appears right now up on the screen, and let's read and just see. There might not be any difference. It said it was updated, but okay. So the way it appeared when I did that video, were poll pads in Texas caught adding hundreds of voters in real time as a poll was being closed? No, that's not true. The state certified ES&S voting system, e-poll book in Dallas County, Texas, previously experienced, quote, some delay in the downloading, end quote, of checked-in voters and then caught up, according to the Texas Secretary of State. Quote, the updating of poll book numbers even after polls have closed is normal behavior for an electronic poll book, an ESS and spokesperson told Lead Stories. Okay, so that looks like it's pretty much the same right there. So I'll go into the lead story. Okay, this is the lead story. When a voter is accepted at their polling place, a poll worker records the transaction on an e-poll book. Quote, once the polls closed at 7 p.m. on election day, the upload traffic on the network decreased, and as a result, the downloads appeared to have been sped up significantly, the Dallas County election website reported. Quote, Dallas County's e-poll books function accurately but slowly and correctly recorded the number of voters who were issued ballots on election day, the website said. Now, you guys heard the woman that was on that machine. This is the woman that was working that machine, and she said, no, the machine was not slow. When I checked somebody in, it incremented. It was working just fine. And then you heard all the other people in the background saying the same thing. Hey, I've got 300 voters that I checked in, and my poll pad now says 1,200 and something. That's not right. What the hell is going on here? So no, it wasn't the machines were being slow. It's that they were adding factors of 3 and 4 number of voters to the poll pads. It says, quote, well, I read the quote. The claim appeared in an article published by the Gateway Pundit November 13th, 2022, titled Breaking Exclusive Election Poll Pads Caught Adding Hundreds of Voters in Real Time as Poll is Being Closed. Archive here. It opened the Election Oversight Group, who has been investigating and documenting Georgia's election problems since the 2020 general election in conjunction with County Citizens Defending Freedom, has provided the Gateway Pundit with more evidence that our election system should not be trusted. This time, it's direct from Texas, but has implications and evidence of occurrences in many other jurisdictions. And then it's got a picture of it. The article said, quote, in a shocking video that seems to confirm many of the things we knew but couldn't prove, poll workers in Dallas, Texas, captured the number of checked-in voters on their poll pads, jumping higher and higher right before polls closed. Gateway Pundit is incorrectly using the term poll pads in their article. Poll pads are a branded product by the company No Inc. Are you freaking kidding me? By the company No Inc., and they do not have contracts or do any business in Dallas, Texas, said Brock Killen, president and COO of No Inc., who told Lead Stories via an email on November 15th. The Dallas County Elections Department told Lead Stories via email November 14th, 2022, that they addressed the issue on the rumor control page on DallasCountyVotes.org. The website said, quote, Dallas County's e-poll books function accurately but slowly and correctly recorded the number of voters who were issued ballots on election day. That is a lie. That is a flat out lie. That whistleblower was documenting it in real time. Hey, look, I wrote this person that just checked in. I wrote their name down, and look at that. My poll pad went up one person the whole day. And it still would not make up for the fact that these people were seeing 4 times the number of people checked in on the machine as opposed to who actually checked in. So this is what they said on Dallas County. Dallas County's e-poll books function accurately, but slowly and correctly recorded the number of voters who were issued ballots on election day. However, Dallas County's final canvass documents will guarantee that the e-poll books were accurate by comparing the number of voters who were issued ballots on the e-poll books with the number of ballots tallied. And if there are any discrepancies, they will be explained. Here's the thing. If they didn't catch this, it never would have been caught. And so that, trying to rectify the number of reconcile the number of ballots versus the number of check-ins would have been meaningless had they not caught it. Sometimes I was actually thinking about this when I was playing that video. Sometimes it's actually better if you don't bring something like this to light. Like imagine if these poll workers made that video, right? They made the video and then kept it to themselves. And then went back after the votes were counted and said, hey, how many people were shown as checked in on e-poll pad, whatever the hell they want to call it, number 1970? Can you show me how many people were checked in and counted as voted on that poll pad? And then when they come back and say 1,239, whatever it was, you say, well, I worked that poll pad and I only checked in 330 voters. So you're wrong here. But because you get out in front of it, and I understand people are trying to do the right thing here, and we appreciate it. But at the same time, these people just write these bullshit stories like this, and they get off with it. Nobody bats an eye. You get some NGO to come in and say, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to be run. And then they turn around with their hand behind their back, and the government tickles their palms, or somebody tickles their palms with some cash. And then they can go on with their lawfare waged across the country. This is sick. This is really sick. This is what Dallas County explained. They should have been ashamed of themselves. To further validate the accuracy of the e-poll books, Dallas County has a backup paper system in place. But again, you wouldn't check the backup paper system unless somebody pointed this out. And if this had occurred at 7:45 when the polls were closed and they were packed up already, instead of 6:45 when they were still getting ready to close and were therefore probably looking at their systems, they never would have caught this. When voters check in at an e-poll book, they also have their names handwritten on a paper voter roster. The totals from the paper voter rosters are used as a second source of information to assure that the electronic rosters are accurate. Yeah, but anybody that's done anything in elections knows that they don't use a secondary source unless they absolutely have to. And even then, it's very difficult to get them to do that. Because once those paper rosters leave the precinct and leave the polling location, who knows if they're ever going to turn up again, right? Hashtag Georgia, Fulton County, where everything's missing. Poll tapes, chain of custody documents, everything's missing. The Elections Department explained that, quote, prior to the election, each poll book is loaded with Dallas County's list of 1.4 million registered voters. Thousands of e-poll books are then shipped to Dallas County's 52 early voting locations and 462 election day vote centers and set up at those locations. I wonder, let's play with perplexity here. So Dallas County, 52 early voting locations. All right, let's check this out. We're going to play with perplexity. In Dallas County, Texas, in 2023, could you vote early at any precinct in the county, or did you have to go to your precinct? This might be very telling right here. In Dallas County, during the 2023 election, voters could cast an early ballot at any designated early voting location. There it is. There it is. Remember when I said you should just call the voters and be like, hey, did you vote? There's only so many voters in a precinct. There it is. Early voting locations allowing voters from anywhere in the county to vote at a particular vote at any voting location is the same thing as the ballot on demand in Maricopa County, where you can just show up at any precinct and have your ballot printed for you. That's bonkers, man. That is absolutely bonkers. And how did I know? Like, I did not know that until I just did this perplexity search right now. How did I know that was going to be, that was something that would be worth looking up? Because that's the modus operandi. That is what they do. If you can vote anywhere in the county then you have 1.4 million voters that you're able to pull from. Because if you're only allowed to do it in your precinct, if you can only vote early in your precinct, there's only 2,000 voters. The average precinct is 2,000 voters. And so if you're dealing with a precinct where you're going to get, maybe early voting, you might get like maybe 10 voters, maybe 100 voters, not very many. And so if you pump these numbers up the way that they are, it's very obvious that you're pumping numbers. It's funny that I knew to look that up. I honestly, I swear on my mother's grave that I did not know that. My mom's not dead either, so that's actually kind of a fucked up thing to say. I swear on my grandmother's grave. The website explained the chain of events. During the voting period, a qualified voter is accepted for voting at the e-poll book, and the transaction is recorded locally on the e-poll book. The transaction is also uploaded to a central server hosted by the ES&S through an encrypted connection. The central server receives the information, updates the database, and then allows all the other poll books in the system to download the transaction. On Election Day, Dallas County processed over 200,000 voters on the e-poll books, which uploaded the transactions to the central server in a timely fashion. However, Dallas County noticed that there appeared to be some delay in the downloading of those transactions to the other poll books. Your other poll book would not show other poll like check-ins. So like if you have 5 stations at your precinct, station number 5 is going to be only the voters that voted at station number 5. This is like chain of custody 101. You're not going to sync up poll pad number 5 with every other poll pad. And if that was the case, they would all be exactly the same. They would all have exactly the same number to show the total number of voters checked in for that election. Their explanation for this is so categorically retarded that you can't even take them seriously. Like Lead Stories didn't read this explanation, and this is why the Mockingbird media, these bullshit fact checkers, this is why they're so despicable, because nothing in this from them makes any sense. And the person that's writing this for Lead Stories does not know elections like I do. They don't know elections like the people that I work with, like they know elections. And so for Lead Stories to just take single-handedly the Dallas County's explanation for this and not reach out to me to get a correspondence. Meanwhile, I'm censored everywhere. I'm banned on YouTube. I'm, at this time, I'm very hardcore banned on X and everything. Well, it's Twitter still and all those platforms. This is disgusting, man. Excuse me. This is absolutely disgusting what these people did to us. Once the poll pads closed at 7 p.m. on Election Day, it was actually 15 minutes before, the upload traffic on the network decreased, and as a result, the downloads appeared to have been sped up significantly. Poll workers at many locations noticed the increased speed and continued downloads on their e-poll books after the close of the polls and reported those transactions to Dallas County and other entities. Once again, guys, the poll pad only contains the people that checked in on that poll pad, period. It's an evidentiary thing. You can't have a poll pad having everybody's check-ins on it. It's evidentiary, it's accountability, there's chain of custody, there's auditing information on there. That's absurd. And Lead Stories should have known better, but it's Lead Stories. ES&S shared a statement on the Dallas County election website saying, quote, "We believe the activity you are observing is normal. We believe," again, qualifying word right there, don't sue us. We believe the activity you are observing is normal. The continued activity on the poll books after the close of polls is expected. Poll book transactions will continue to update until all data is accurately reflected. Again, it was being updated in real time. It was being updated in real time. As long as poll books are communicating with the central server, voter data will continue to sync. Quote, Dallas County addressed this misinformation accurately on their rumor control webpage. The updating of poll book numbers, even after polls have closed, is normal behavior for an electronic poll book. Are you hearing the same thing over and over and over? You could have just said like one time, like, here's a general statement from Dallas County, ES&S, and Katina Granger that this is normal behavior. Katina Granger said that senior manager of public relations for ES&S told these stories in an email. Quote, during election day, any activity on the poll book, including the check-in of a voter, is recorded as a transaction. These transactions are regularly synced through the day, with the central database, which each poll book uploading and downloading transactions. In locations where connectivity is slow or when there's a high amount of volume being shared by the secure network, these transactions may see delays uploading, downloading, and syncing. Again, they don't sync. They don't sync. The only thing they might sync for is to make sure that a voter is credited with voting if they voted somewhere else so that you don't double check them in. That doesn't mean you increment the number of check-ins that you had. It does not do that. As connections improve or network volume eases, the poll books upload and download transactions, which may have been previously delayed, updating data across all poll books. The transactional data may continue to update even after the close of polls, as long as poll books are connected to the central server, until all data is accurately reflected on the poll books. Generally speaking, e-poll books are required to communicate with each other and update in real time throughout the county, showing who has checked in at other polling places so that no voter can try to cast a ballot twice. That's what I just said. That doesn't mean you increment every poll book. Secretary of State posted several videos explaining how the voting process in Texas works. Again, this is just the level of disdain that they have for you, the voter, is disgusting. Like, hey, let's just give them some cookie cutter. This is how you cast a vote. This is what the poll pad does, or the poll book does. And then in reality, you see what it's actually doing. And but there's no real, it's a baseless claim. There's no real evidence of this. That was totally tongue in cheek. He says at 2:39 in a video titled SOS 101 Voting System in Texas, John B. Scott, Secretary of State of Texas, begins speaking about poll books. He says, quote, now poll books to check voters in are connected to the internet to make sure that eligible voters only vote once. But remember, they're never connected to any device that you vote on or that tabulates actual election results. Still not answering my question, guys. I just about give up. Oh, well, let's read this one because it's got our favorite election fraudster in it. At 2:49 in a video titled SOS 101 Casting and Counting Your Ballot, election administrator for Tarrant County, Hyder Garcia, is taking Scott through the voting process. He explains, quote, well, the first thing that's going to happen is that the election judge is going to ask you to show ID. And you can use any of these 7 forms of IDs, approved IDs. Once they've verified your identity, they will look you up in a poll book. Some counties have a paper poll book. Some have electronic poll books. They'll locate you there so that you'll sign in. If it's an electronic poll book, it tells you the others that you've checked in and blah, blah, blah. You cannot vote twice. God, and that's it. That's it. That is literally it. And this is the woman that wrote it. Alexis Terasuzik is a writer and fact checker at Lead Stories and an award-winning journalist. An award-winning journalist. I mean, have you ever broken a story this big, Alexis Terasuzik? Have you ever been fact-checked by a Mockingbird hack outlet and then rebutted that fact check and correctly rebutted it and then gone completely ignored? You're an award-winning, because we don't win awards. We do actual journalism and we don't win awards because that would reinforce the work that we do and that would give us credibility. And you don't want to give us credibility. So you give out Pulitzers and other types of freaking garbage ass awards to people that write about the Russia hoax or the pee-pee scandal. As the entertainment editor, she investigated Hollywood stories and conducted interviews with A-list celebrities and reality stars. Alexis's crime reporting earned her spots as a contributor on Nancy Grace Show, CNN, Fox News, and Entertainment Tonight. Congratulations. You guys fact-checked me with the Hollywood gossip columnist. Congratulations, guys. Real stand-up job there. You said the same thing throughout a whole entire, this is just fucking terrible, man. I'm sorry. This is awful. When you go back and you look at the last 4 years and what they did to us and what they did during the 2020 election, the 2022 election, and the 2024 election, When you look at what they did to us and they had the audacity to use this as debunking, get the hell out of here, man. These people, you cannot dislike these people enough. I cannot say that enough. I cannot say that enough. All right. Let's get into my interview here with Kurt Olson. Now, this was I believe this was, let me give you context here. Let me check the chat real quick and see the feedback we're getting on here. You son of a bitch. That's for Hyder. Yep, that was Leonardo. I think his name was Leonardo Toxin, or was it Teodoro Loxon? I can't remember. I always get that guy's name confused. You son of a bitch. You told me if there was fraud, we would catch it. You son of a bitch. And then they struck that from the record. So she's a genius. Wow. Yes, she is a genius. Misfit Angie, are we not entertained? As long as people keep walking with their fucking heads in the clouds or down in their iPhones and stop ignoring this stuff, me and Alpha and Ash and Colonel Smith and Mark Cook recorded part 2 of the Tina Peters saga today. And it's deep, man. Like, you guys are going to want to watch that. Alpha will be airing it. I'll be airing it. And I think Ash will also be airing it. It's good. Like, really, really good. Like, pull out the Mesa files and find some shit in there. Good. So you're going to want to watch it. And this one's not 3 hours and 30 minutes. I think it's only an hour and 45 minutes. And it's nonstop, just action packed. But yeah, when we were doing that, I'm losing my train of thought here. Give me 2 seconds. Are we not entertained? No, that wasn't it. So exactly where they spoke in Arizona's pretending to fix our elections. Promises. I can't even remember. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I was, Alpha's kind of, look, I don't think he would deny this. When you compare Alpha with me and Ash, he's kind of a normie in elections. He knows the surface level stuff pretty well, but he's never done the deep dives that Ash and I have done, and that for sure Colonel Smith and Mark Cook have done. And he'll admit that. I'm not taking a shot at him. I love that guy like a brother. And so after the show, I was texting him and he's like, bro, we got to get this out. Like this, we need to get this out. And I was like, dude, this is like every show that Ash and I do. We go through this stuff like this. And, I told him, I said, I'm going to be doing this show here. And he said, yes, we need this. We need this so bad. And so, hopefully this gets some traction. Please share it out. All right. Because we were censored from talking like this, and we had people like Lead Stories coming out and doing this type of fact checking on us. And it was absolute utter nonsense. It was utter garbage. That fact check was straight garbage. Garbage. All right, let's jump into the Kurt Olson interview now. And before I get into this, I'll tell you, this was also 2 years ago. So the exact date, and it doesn't show you the exact date here. I kind of don't like that about Rumble. Rumble, we need exact dates. So this was 2 years ago. I know it was right around the time of the Kari Lake trial following the 2022 midterm election, where she quote unquote lost to Katie Hobbs. So let's go ahead and play this. What's up, guys? Today is January 26, 2022, and welcome to this interview here that we're going to be conducting with the lead attorney for Kari Lake in the Lake v. Hobbs case that's under appeal right now. Kurt Olson is an absolute patriot. He's been fighting not just in this Lake v. Hobbs, he's been fighting the whole way, going back to when Donald Trump was in office. He's been a nonstop patriot fighting for election integrity, among other things. He's worked closely with the campaign out there. And he did an excellent job, in my opinion, in the original case that we heard last month. And, of course, it didn't go our way, but there's a lot of scrutiny that I personally have in the way that case was handled by the judge. I think it was a very unfair case, and I think that it's something that we as United States citizens, we need to be concerned about the bar that was set in that case moving forward. And I don't say this just as a conservative, as a Republican and all that. I say this as an American citizen because sometimes the shoe might be on the other foot, and this is something that was incredibly unfair to the candidate here, the burden that was set. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring on my guest for today, Mr. Kurt Olson. Kurt, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. You have been, you've just everything that has to do with election integrity over the last couple months. You've been involved. It feels like you've been involved in some way. And we finally got this groundbreaking case where we got a judge that's going to hear this on the merits, and we're actually going to get to present evidence and everything along those lines. And then we get in there. And you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I was watching, we live streamed the trial. We did a lot of coverage of the trial. And the whole time I'm watching this and reading, the bar that's set for this trial, it felt more like this was a criminal case and you were a prosecutor that had to set there was just so many different things. You had to show, that there was intent. You had to show the exact number. You had to show who did what. It was like a game of Clue. It was Colonel Mustard in the kitchen with the candlestick maker. Is that an unfair assessment?
Well, it was even a higher standard than what you just described, because what the judge required was for us to prove intent to affect the election, essentially by clear and convincing evidence that the election was rigged. It was the whole ball of wax from start to finish, that we had to prove that the defendants, by clear and convincing evidence, intended to rig the election. And I want to, back up just for a second. When you say people think, well, this was a trial, this is an election contest. And so that's why it moved so quickly from the election to trial within a matter of weeks. We were not afforded, a normal trial. You have discovery. You're allowed to seek documents. You're allowed to take depositions. You're allowed to do all of these things to help prove your case. What we didn't have any of that, except we did have, because it's in the statute for election contests, that you can inspect the ballots. And that one event proved to be a gold mine with Clay Parikh. But the other evidence that we presented was developed with people like myself and others, Shelby Bush, and a whole team of people working 24/7 to develop the evidence on the chain of custody, on the signature verification issues, on the tabulator issues, collecting hundreds of declarations. So the standard, which applies in the normal context, was even more difficult to meet because we didn't get to go in and get documents from the defendants to take their depositions beforehand. It was an extraordinary burden, but in many ways, whether wittingly or not, it was a gift, because the burden is so outside the bounds of the law that in and of itself is a very discrete, powerful issue on appeal, which we think that we're going to prevail on. Just on that issue alone.
All right, so let me pause real quick there. And one person, one vote in the chat says, so we say we found a dead body, but also we have to disclose the weapon and who did it. And that's actually a very good analogy, because it's like saying we found, so if it's a murder, you say we found the dead body. Okay, now let's find out, was it a murder first and foremost? And who committed the murder? What was used to kill the person? Those are things that you use to get to arrive at the ultimate conclusion of who committed this crime. When you're dealing with elections, you should not have that same standard. It should not be a question of figuring out who specifically committed the crime and all that stuff. Now, that'd be great in the criminal proceedings. That would be great to figure out who actually did it. But like Kurt Olson said there, this is an election contest. This is contesting the results of an election. And to say that you have to show intent and everything, that doesn't matter. That does not matter. It does not matter if they intended to run a fraudulent election. The election was fraudulent, period. Hard stop. It doesn't matter if they deliberately did that or not. And that is absurd to think that that matters. And I might not have articulated that well in my opening with him, because that would have been a better way to articulate that it doesn't matter who committed this and whether they deliberately did it or not. It's just the fact that they did it. The voice of the American people they've been disenfranchised because that vote that they had was not true and correct. It was not legitimate. It cannot be trusted. Everything after that is a matter of a criminal investigation, which I would have absolutely recommended opening a criminal investigation, although they do everything in their power to ensure that nobody actually can be held accountable for the crimes that take place during these elections by using things like, generic logins so that everybody has the same login and everybody has the same password. But the fundamental question in an election contest should be not who done it and why did they do it, but what was done and was it wrong? Was this election stolen? Was this election fraudulent? And that's it for that case. Anything after that, you refer to a criminal case, right? And then from there, that's when, like Kurt said, we didn't get discovery and we didn't get all this stuff. That's a problem, folks. That's a problem when you're bringing an election contest for the, in this case, for control of Arizona as the governor, for the governorship of Arizona, but also, for House of Representatives. I'm sure there were some House races on there. All the House races for Arizona were on there, or in Maricopa, at least. The Attorney General was on there. We saw what happened with Chris Mays, right? She won by 280 votes. And one of the first things she did is turn around and press charges on the electors that challenged the election in 2020. So do you see what I'm saying here? Like, this election contest and having this incredible burden of proof that you have to provide, that it was deliberate and who done it, rather than just was it murder or was it not murder? Was it murder, or is the person still breathing? Well, that's an even better one there. Is the person still breathing, or is the person dead? If the person's still breathing, then we have nothing to look at any further. If the person is dead, then boom, we need to get them to the morgue. We need to get them, embalmed. We need to notify the family. We need to make funeral arrangements and all that stuff. Now, the murder investigation, that's a whole separate thing. And that's how the election should be. The election should be the same way. Was it free and fair and accurate, or was it not? And if it was, then so be it. But if it was not, then that goes to a separate batch, and let's figure out how to remedy the fact that it was not. Whether it was deliberate, who done it, and all that stuff, that's a whole separate case, and that can be dealt with in the long term. That doesn't have to be, dealt with right away. The thing we need to get to right away is, how do we make sure that this election was fair, and let's go back and remedy it so that it is fair. Does that make sense? Because that is what the standard should be. And based on what Kurt Olson is saying here, that is not what it was. All right, let's keep going. So originally going into this, you had 10 counts, and I don't know the 10 counts off the top of my head. I have a general idea of all them. The 2 counts that you ended up getting were the tabulator. What was it exactly? It was the tabulator, the ballot,
the ballot rejections by the tabulators, with the chaos that happened on election
door number
day,
3,
which the defendants have tried to downplay. They've referred to it as, quote unquote, a hiccup, or as minor technical difficulties to be expected during any election. And the evidence, and including some incredibly explosive evidence coming out of the system log files, which put the lie to their characterization of the events that day as a mere hiccup. So that was claim 1, yes, on the tabulators.
And then, so the second claim after that was the chain of custody, and that's where we got Heather Honey that came in and did an excellent job showing that the chain of custody is just absolutely in shambles. It's pretty much non-existent. I mean, from the post office to Runbeck, there's next to no chain of custody. Now, I made the argument, and let me know if you think that this is a sound argument, but I made the argument that this would be the equivalent. I use this reference a lot. This would be the equivalent of arriving at a crime scene. Oh my goodness. As I was just doing that whole spiel, I was wondering if I came up with this back in 2023 or not, or 2022 or not. And apparently I did. So you guys, everything I just talked about for the last 15 minutes, you're going to hear me talk about again 2 years ago. And seeing a dead body down there, and then the only thing you're allowed to do is go in and say, yes, that body is a dead body, and yes, it does look like it was a murder. And the judge says, okay, now show us how it was done. The things that you just found, the rejection rate from the tabulators and the chain of custody, is nothing more than evidence that shows there needs to be a further investigation. The fact that the chain of custody is violated is not going to prove that any of the ballots are illegitimate or that the ballots are not authentic, that the signatures aren't proper. You basically laid out, and you guys did extremely well in doing so, you laid out that, yes, there was something afoul here, and we need to go further with our examination. We need to look at the signatures. We need to look at the slog files and the rejection rate on the machine, the ballot definitions. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think certainly you can always dig more, and we are continuing our investigation as we speak, the system log files being one example. But I believe we've proven our case. So, for example, with chain of custody, we've proven that they didn't follow chain of custody procedures for about 300,000 ballots on election day. They deviated from the mandatory procedures on election day. 300,000 ballots that were transferred from Maricopa to Runbeck don't have chain of custody. But there's more than that. What we have shown is that there are 25,000 plus unaccounted for ballots. That's a manifestation of the risk. Over 25,000 ballots magically appeared between the day after the polls closed, November 9th, and November 10th. What was reported as the official results, just the ballot count, mind you, not the results of the election. This is just the number of ballots that were received. There are 25,000 more reported on November 10th than there were on November 9th. And I'll give you this was just a great find with the defendants in their answering briefs to our appeal. They were very helpful to us. They argued that all of the chain of custody documents had been produced and therefore nothing to see here. Well, the documents that they produced to support that, and they cited in their briefs, there were two kinds. There was a delivery receipt that is the document Runbeck uses to record the number of ballots that are delivered to them. And there are a series of them because there are multiple deliveries. And then the other set of documents that they helpfully provided to us and to the court were documents reflecting the ballots that were scanned. And those are scanned in like 10,000 ballot batches. Well, we went and looked at them and decided to add up all the receipts, and they added up to about 263,000 plus, and we could give a precise figure, and we cited that, of ballots that were received that Runbeck said we received 263,000 plus ballots on election day. And then we went and looked at how many they said they had scanned. Well, it's 298,942, which is like, well, wait a minute. How are you scanning more ballots, 33,000 ballots or more, than you say you received? And that is just gold. Yeah. And it illustrates why chain of custody is so important, because that shouldn't happen. They should be able, and they're required by law to track every ballot that is cast. And if you have 33,000 ballots showing up unaccounted for, where did that come from? And it just so happens, of course, that Katie Hobbs, who won by a 17,000 vote margin. So this is devastating to the defense. They admit they did not follow mandatory chain of custody procedures on election day because there were too many ballots coming in.
All right. So again, chain of custody is everything. And we've talked about chain of custody ad nauseum on this platform because they take chain of custody as if it's like something that is a suggestion, right? Like maybe you should do chain of custody. If you got time, please fill out these documents and let's make sure that they're accurate and that you actually, have 263,000 ballots instead of 295,000 ballots. Let's make sure that these numbers are actually correct. That, and then when that stuff is not allowed to be properly argued in a court of law, like what is this facade that we consider elections? Now, the best thing about this interview, and there's a reason I started with this one first, because Kurt Olson is the special advisor to President Trump right now on elections. So this man right here when President Trump talks about elections, it's either coming from him or it's going to go down to him to look into. And so, this is one of the reasons why I have a lot of confidence in moving forward with elections. And, there's some other reasons, but this is one of the main reasons that I still have a lot of confidence, because Kurt Olson is involved in this, and he knows this better than most. And, I guess we'll see what happens, moving forward. But again, Katie Hobbs, Chris Mays beat Abe Hamaday by 280 votes in Maricopa County. Yeah, Katie Hobbs won by 17,000. And the leading vote getter for the Republicans in that election, I believe, was the treasurer. The treasurer got more votes than Kerry Lake, got more votes than Abe Hamaday. That just doesn't happen, right? That's not normal. All right, let's keep going. That's amazing. Now, I do want to bring up, now this is obviously not related to this case, but we learned in the 2021 audit that they did in Maricopa County, we learned that at Runbeck, who prints the ballots, not just for Maricopa County, but for a lot of other jurisdictions across the United States, Fulton County, Georgia being one of them. We learned that when in Maricopa County, when you mail your ballot back, it doesn't go to the county itself. It actually goes to Runbeck and is stored there until Election Day. And if I'm wrong on something here, Kurt.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Feel free. Yeah, I was going to say, feel free to correct me, but
it's actually mailed out from Runbeck too.
Right. And and they scan it in. They have these high-speed scanners, and that's the justification for doing it. Perhaps it's time Maricopa County invests in their own high-speed scanner, so we take out third-party vendors from having this type of undue influence on the election, especially given what you guys have discovered now in your case. But let's just stop there, because this is something at the time. People that were listening to my shows at the time have heard this over and over again. But because we are new on YouTube again, we're back on YouTube again, and this is something that the YouTube audience may not have heard. That's insane. So in Maricopa County, if you're a voter in Maricopa County, I think it's the 4th largest county in the United States. And it, as Maricopa goes, so does Arizona pretty much. When you mail back your mail-in ballot, it doesn't go to your election office. It goes to Runbeck, a private company, and they store it for the county. That is beyond bonkers. That is insane. That's what happens. That is absolutely insane. And they're doing nothing to fix this. And if you guys remember, and I don't know if I'm going to talk about this or not, but if you guys remember Doug Logan, who conducted the forensic audit in Maricopa County with Cyber Ninjas, his company Cyber Ninjas, he was required by law as a contractor with the state Senate in Arizona, in Maricopa County, to hand over his records for freedom of information requests. So he had to hand over text communications, email communications, and all that stuff. And the ruling is that it's in a great interest to the people of Maricopa or the United States as a whole. Then when they tried to get the same thing for Runbeck, they were protected from that. The judge ruled that they didn't have to do that. They wanted to charge Doug Logan, I think it was like $50,000 per day, that he didn't comply once the compliance deadline passed. And Maricopa and Runbeck doesn't have to do anything. And now, for those that don't know, Runbeck is deeply, deeply embedded in our election infrastructure, in our election community. And when I say our election community, I mean the NGOs and the clerk associations, the Secretary of State's associations, those associations, not us, our community, but our elections community of NGOs that actually run our elections and not the actual state elected officials. They're deeply embedded with them. They have lobbyists, they have people, employees and former employees that are, in executive positions in these groups. And it's just, in my opinion, it's utterly corrupt. And, it's maybe that's the reason that, you know, it's one of the few companies in elections. I think it's the only company in elections mentioned in the drops. So I'll just put that out there. All right, let's keep going. Oh, you know what? I was talking earlier about alpha. Guys, if you guys could take like 2 seconds, I'm gonna do an ad read right here. And while I'm doing this ad read, if you guys could just take 2 seconds and copy this link wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, wherever, and just share this out, because this is stuff that needs to get out there. And you know, I hate to, like, you know, whatever. I hate to try and get, you know, people watching, but there's only like 400 people in total watching this right now, and this type of information should have thousands of people watching. You guys will go watch, not you guys, but people will go watch like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump are at each other's throats. Like, let's keep this drama going so that the retards can throw popcorn at people. And it's like, you guys are fucking retarded. All right. We got actual work that needs to be done to save this country. And this is the foundation of it, cleaning up our elections. So if you guys could take 2 seconds, copy the link, share it out on all your socials, and try and get some folks watching this program and all the content that I put out there, all the content that me and Ash put out there, the show at Alpha and I are going to do. This is what is going to move this country. It's not going to be the semantical, rhetorical bullshit about, is MTG MAGA or is it America first? Do I wear a red hat or do I wear a blue hat? That's all retarded shit, guys. That is absolutely retarded shit. So I promise, if you share it out, I will stop swearing, you know, like that for the rest of the show. And yeah, let's keep going. All right, before we move on, guys, are you looking for a smarter... Oh, hold on. I completely botched that up. Oh, no. I don't think I can do it. Oh, I accidentally hit the wrong button. I can't do it. This is not... All right. So I'm going to have to just... I accidentally hit the wrong button on my screen. But guys, you guys know about Rumble Premium. Right now they have a special $19.99. You're also going to get Perplexity Pro with that. And you guys know Perplexity is... I used it earlier in the show. I literally used Perplexity earlier in the show. Let me pull it back up so I can show you guys to do this search right here. All right, right there. I also have comment. Comments up there. But I used it on the show to do the fact check on Dallas County, and it worked perfectly. It gave me exactly the information that I need. And Rumble.com has teamed up with Perplexity, and if you get Rumble Premium for $19.99, you'll save, I think it's $10. The ad went away, but I think you save $10 right now if you go to rumble.com/ I think it's rumble.com/premium. This is where it really sucks. Hold on, where's the thing? I can just read it from there. Yeah, rumble.com/premium and enter code studio, and you'll get the Perplexity as well. It's a Rumble Premium bundle package, and you'll get all that. And I do apologize for messing that ad read up, but you guys know, like, I try and stick to products that I, you know, very much use. And when I see Rumble and I see Perplexity, I love those two. So, all right, let's get back into the interview here. But what I always found absolutely incredibly ironic and unforgivable is that in the 2021 audit that Cyber Ninjas and Doug Logan did, they were forbidden from talking to Runbeck. Runbeck was not allowed to answer any of the questions in that audit, and that is an important aspect of the audit, where the ballots are stored before they're transferred back and forth, and, you know, printing issues and scanning issues and chain of custody and all that stuff, among other things. Obviously, the Splunk logs, we didn't get any of the Splunk logs or the router stuff, and we also what was the other thing that we didn't get there?
Well, there's a second server that Maricopa maintains that they weren't given access to either.
Correct. And the other thing was the poll pads. They use a very unique poll pad in Maricopa County that nobody else in the country uses, and they weren't allowed to do any type of audit or analysis on that as well. So, like I said, this is, you are showing, in your case, you are showing there is a lot that needs to be evaluated here. And you need those other counts in order to continue with that, the signature verification to show that perhaps, there was an insertion of ballots somewhere along the line here, or there is, or maybe there was none. And we all have to eat crow, but let's see what happens.
Well, it does beg the question, how do you count more ballots than you recorded receiving? That's a problem. And we can win on any one of those counts. We can win.
Just think about what Kurt just said right there. How do we count more ballots than we show receiving? Well, if you were listening to the last segment about Dallas County and their poll pads, that's how you do it. You just count ballots until you match with the poll pads that incremented on their own. Now, I'm not saying Maricopa did that, but that's how you use that logic that Kurt just laid down there and apply it to Dallas County, and you can see what's going on there.
We show outcome determinative violations of law with any one of the accounts that we proceeded forward on trial. You add to it, of course, we are appealing the signature verification and Shelby Bush's findings, which it's one thing to talk about, tens of thousands of ballots with signatures that don't match, or I believe actually the number goes out to well over 150,000 for 2020 and the same for 2022. But it's quite a bit different to actually see the signatures. And I don't know if you saw Shelby's presentation, but when you see these signatures side by side, it's startling.
Yeah, it's not even close.
That visual is just incredible.
Yeah, it's not even close. Before we get into the slog files, which you mentioned earlier, I want to just focus real quick on the trial itself from a few weeks ago. Clay Parikh, you mentioned Clay Parikh, who has been on my show a couple times now, and God bless him for having the guts to do what he's doing, especially in the industry that he's in right now. He still has the guts to do what's right, and I expect nothing less from a Marine like that. We have that kind of that brotherhood there, the Marine Corps brotherhood. So
Semper Fi.
Heck yeah, Semper Fi. I want to ask, so we learned through Clay Parikh, Scott Jarrett had testified that there were 3 voting centers, vote anywhere centers, that had this shrink to fit. Well, I love the way that you set up the question on the first day when you were talking to him, and he was saying ballot definitions. And you're like, no, I'm not saying ballot definitions, ballot images. Can a smaller ballot image, fit on the paper, and what would happen? And you got them all tied up on there. But he said it happened 3 times, and it happened in 3 locations, and about 1,300 ballots were affected. Well, then you get Clay Parikh's testimony, who had the opportunity to look at 6 randomly chosen locations, look at ballots from there, and he found that it occurred in all 6 of them. So out of a random sample of 6 locations, you had 100% find that you guys were correct in your assessment. What does that is first off, is that enough justification to expand an investigation to figure out how much more this happened and actually get physical ballots from other locations to confirm or disprove this theory?
Well, it absolutely is. But let me back up just a moment. When I examined Scott Jarrett the first day of trial, he denied that there was any way a 19-inch ballot image could appear projected onto a 20-inch ballot.
Yep.
That shrink to fit excuse occurred day 2. He did not mention that day 1. He unequivocally said it could never happen, didn't happen, no way. And then as soon as he said that, I actually shifted the order of our witnesses because I was stunned when he was talking like this. And I brought Clay on the stand immediately following his testimony to bookend it for the court.
Now, I will remind you guys, if you go back to that 2-day trial that he had, Jordan Conradson, one of my colleagues at the Gateway Pundit, had an article out where they got the footage of Scott Jarrett in like a war room powwow trying to figure out, I'm assuming, trying to figure out how to walk back what he just perjured himself on. Because that was absolutely perjury. Or he would have to perjure himself, to correct the record. So this was one of the shocking parts. And again, this is the kind of the accepted norm in these cases where these people do these heinous things like perjury and just straight up lying about things on the stand, and they get away with it. There's never any oh, well, he just misspoke. He's only the elected official that's running this, or the appointed official running this. That doesn't mean he's supposed to actually know what to say and how to define these things. Well, no, actually it does. That's his job.
And if you remember, the defendant's cross was incredible. I mean, I think they were even flabbergasted, because I mean, they were asking him like, well, you appeared with the My Pillow guy at the Moment of Truth summit, didn't you, Mr. Parikh? I mean, like questions like that, which, if you don't have anything to ask, that's the kind of question you ask. And that's exactly what they did. So they were stunned, and they concocted this shrink to fit excuse for day 2 after Clay's testimony. And it absolutely is a reason to investigate further, but it's also a reason right now to set aside the election for misconduct.
Yes.
That would never have happened had logic and accuracy testing been performed. And that's required by Arizona law, and they didn't do it. And it was actually very funny, because we brought this out in our reply brief. Scott Jarrett on the stand repeatedly referred to stress testing, which is not logic and accuracy testing. It's completely different. Logic and accuracy testing is designed to make sure the tabulators will read all the ballots, and it's required under Arizona law for all deployable voting equipment to be tested. That includes the ballot on demand printers. So this whole debacle that we all know about on election day would never have occurred had they tested according to logic and accuracy procedures. Stress testing is just running ballots through the printer, seeing if they're going to print paper, not running them through the tabulators and checking. And so they parsed it, but where Maricopa in particular in their brief, they came out and said, defendants or plaintiffs are wrong. We performed all logic and accuracy testing exactly according to law. And Hobbs parsed their test with their briefs. So they're very careful. They just said, well, we did testing. They didn't say logic and accuracy testing. And it was quite funny, because we were able to, I call it a pie, like a pie in the face to Maricopa with their brief, because they are flat out misleading the court.
Yes.
And we said that in our reply brief, that they are misleading the court on this issue and on several other issues, by the way. So I really like our reply, if you can't tell. They gave us a number of gifts. It
is very well written. The logic and accuracy test was a huge thing. And you just said right now, this is crazy that you said this, because you said just on what we just talked about, the 6 out of 6, 100%, and denying that there was any ballot images that were shrunk down to 19 inches. That, to me, that was huge, but that wasn't even the biggest takeaway from this. The biggest takeaway was the very next day when Scott Jarrett was on the stand and said that this has happened in 3 other elections.
Yeah.
I literally, we were live streaming it. And when he said that, my jaw dropped. Yeah. This happened 3 times before. And you are just now doing a root cause analysis to figure out what's going on here and why this is occurring. To me, look, you guys had an incredible standard. You had to prove misconduct. You had to prove, the quantity of the ballots and all that stuff. You did it with, well, you didn't do it. Scott Jarrett did it right there. The fact that he's known that this has happened in 3 other elections and has done nothing to fix it, that in and of itself is criminal. That's in my, and look, I don't know the law in Arizona. That's criminal negligence. If you knowingly allow something to happen over and over and over 3 times, over and over and over, and you disenfranchise voters, you take away their 14th Amendment rights, and you're single-handedly basically attacking one specific type of voter, in-person voters, which we know lean heavily conservative. If that's not misconduct, I don't know what is.
Yeah, well, I have some doubts about this whole shrink to fit excuse. Like I said, they concocted it the day after. And so it's admissions like that and other statements, like it only occurred in 3 voting centers when Clay testified, and he saw them in all 6 that he selected, where they said they began the root cause analysis the day they discovered this after the election.
I want to pause here for a minute. I'm going to pivot to another video, because we're talking about the shrink to fit ballots and all that. And I think it's very important, again, because this is a recap, to show another video that that somebody sent to me, and I was the first journalist to report on it. This is what actually happened, and I want you guys to see like what actually happened so you understand why there was a big discrepancy about this. So let me jump over here real quick to this video right here and play this video. So this is just a sample of what happened at the polling location. Credit to Kristen Hammond. I want to make sure I get credit where credit's due. Credit to, because I haven't played this in a long time, Kristen Hammond 7918 on X. The Arizonan that recorded this video was trying to vote from 5:17 p.m. until 9:16 p.m. She was one of the determined patriots that wouldn't take bin 3 for an answer. I'm going to speed this up. People vote on election day to ensure that their ballot is counted. It's a 14th Amendment violation over 235 times the allowable rejection rate. 235. So every time you hear that buzzer, that means the ballot that they're trying to run through was rejected. And you'll hear a tink when it was accepted. Okay, so again, I'm putting this on double speed. And this is because of the 19-inch ballot. Because they're trying to run a 19-inch ballot through a machine that's programmed to read a 20-inch ballot. That's the machine on the left rejecting them now. Let me go full screen and put myself on the bottom here. There we go. Rejected, rejected. Nope. Turn it sideways. Oh yeah, that'll fix it. Turn it around. Nope. 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 To the left. Nope, to the left. Still have not gotten one accepted yet. Not one ballot has been accepted yet, guys. Nope. Nope. Again, smash that thumbs up, guys, if you have not. Take a second to share this show out, folks. This is the stuff that they wouldn't let us see. This was too dangerous to see. Following the 2020 and 2022 election, we could not see this. Hey, his was accepted. The first one. Hold on. We are 4 minutes and 15 seconds into this video, and that is the first ballot that has been accepted. 4.5 minutes in on 2 machines. So let's take that as 8 minutes worth of voting. 8 minutes and 30 seconds of voting before one ballot was accepted. And let's keep going. And please, again, share the show out. Hit that thumbs up. By the way, that accepted right there was not, they did not even run it. Watch on the left here. They don't even run it. They're just dumping it in bin 3. So she just takes that ballot and puts it in bin 3, puts it in bin 3, puts it in bin 3. The reason people vote in person is because they want to ensure that their ballot is counted. And these people are being disenfranchised because of a programming error. Again, it doesn't matter if it was deliberate or not. It doesn't matter if somebody did this on purpose or not. As Kurt was saying, the burden of proof that they had to rise to, which is criminal, not a civil burden. It doesn't matter. People are being disenfranchised right now by being told that they have to put their ballot in a bin and not ensure that their ballot was counted and cast and counted as they intended it. So now they're all just dumping it in there. They're still running them on the right there. Hers was accepted. Oh, I missed a rejected on the tall guy there. I think his just got rejected again. Oh, maybe if we move it a little bit, just bang on it. Treat it like an old Nintendo 8-bit. Blow on it. Just like we used to with the 8-bit Nintendo games. You remember that? Hers worked. This is disgusting, man. I apologize. I know this is kind of long and all that, but I think it's important that people actually see this. People need to see what happened on election day, and the worst part is the judges and everybody else were like, "Oh, this is fine. This is fine." This happened across Maricopa County, the entire county. Well, not the entire county, but more than half was having the same exact issue. And Chris Mays, the attorney general, only won by 280 votes. You could probably make up 280 votes just here. And they use the excuse, well, the people could put it in bin number 3 and it would be counted later. Okay, sure. But meanwhile, the lines are backing up to like Disney World length, like you're going to wait 2 hours and 45 minutes to ride an 80-second ride, Space Mountain, right? They're waiting 2 to 3 hours. There are people that pull into the parking lot and they're like, yeah, I'm not waiting in that line. I can't, I'm on my lunch break. I can't afford this. I got to get home and make dinner for my kids. I can't afford, I can't sit here and wait 3 hours to vote. This was a total disenfranchisement, absolute and total disenfranchisement that never should have happened. And let me see. Let me go back because I'm on double speed. But this was the actual difference. Okay, so there we go. So you see that screen that you're looking at right now? The ballot on the right is the 19-inch ballot. The ballot on the left is the 20-inch ballot. Those are the same ballots for the same precinct filled out by different voters. And that is what each of them were getting. Some were getting the ballot on the right. Some were getting the ballot on the left. The ballot on the right could not be read. The ballot on the left could be read. Now, I want to show you guys just real quick. This is a video. Oh, that's 2016. All right, I'll keep playing this and see if I can find it. Okay. All right, so you guys got the point there. I wanted to show you guys that. Now we'll go back to the Kurt Olson video. I'll try and find there's a couple videos of the lines that accumulated at these voting centers, and it's shocking how long the lines were. I'll try and find that while I'm playing this.
That they're still performing their root cause analysis, yet they never mentioned this in their response to the Attorney General. If you recall, on November 19th, 2 weeks after or 11 days after the election, the Attorney General issued a letter wanting documentation to explain a number of events that happened on election day, such as the chaos on this. They, on November 26th, they put forward I think it's about a 12-page response with about 8 different exhibits, hundreds of pages of exhibits. Not once in that letter did they mention this issue. And it was something that the AG specifically focused on. And not once did they mention it. Yet, the day after trial, when Clay Parikh reveals his stunning findings, this shrink to fit excuse magically appears. And then they admit, like you said, that it had nothing to see here because it's occurred in 3 prior elections, no big deal. And you're thinking, what did I just hear? Mm-hmm. Because like you said, it shows prior knowledge. So
let's okay, I want to move on. I want to get into the slog files here for just a second, because this is absolutely, I think this is breaking. I don't think this has been published yet, so we're going to go over this real quick. But before we get to that aspect of it, I got to talk about Ryan Macias for a second. I've been kind of following him for the last couple years, going back to the 2020 election, and we saw him on the stand here in Maricopa County in your trial. You brought it to the judge's attention that he looks like he was reading. Clearly he was reading. I mean, there is, I look, I do this for a living. I can see what people are doing on the screen, and I can tell where they're looking. I can tell when somebody's reading comments. One of my guests is reading comments instead of talking with me. I can tell. And when you're looking at Macias and you're looking at him, look to the side like this. And then, now there's a rumor, and maybe you can put this to bed, or maybe you can't confirm it at all. There's a rumor that he was in the courthouse that day, but he did not come into the courtroom. Is there any validity to that?
I heard that. I don't have any proof of that.
Okay, so we don't have any proof of that. Now, just real quick, what's the significance of him testifying via Zoom? This is something that has just absolutely blown my mind. And Stephen Richard did the same thing, which to me was unacceptable as well. You knew that this was coming up. You got to, I'm sure he got served and everything along those lines, and he couldn't be there in person, but it is what it is. But Ryan Macias is clearly reading. What's the significance of that as an attorney that's watching somebody off screen that is deliberate enough to read something? Is what are the odds that somebody's there coaching him, putting something on the screen as it's going? I mean, that's a big deal.
Well, Brian Blem, my colleague, is actually the one that did the cross-examination and called it out to the court that he was clearly reading. And he wasn't just looking down for a brief moment. He was actually just looking down and to the right and giving his answer as if he was reading from a script. I mean, that's what it appeared to be. But the significance of it is, it makes it more difficult to do a cross-examination, but it does allow Macias, who appeared to be reading, to read a scripted answer is what it looked to be. I will say this on one of the other difficulties of this trial, we only had 5.5 hours to present our entire case over 2 days. And so the clock was ticking, but it would have been nice if we had had more time to drill down on Macias on that issue, as well as his qualifications, or lack thereof. The Maricopa has trotted him out as an expert, and his qualifications don't stand scrutiny in terms of his cyber skills. And you match him up against somebody like Clay Parikh, and there's no comparison.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the other discouraging things about this is that you guys so I after your trial we live streamed the Abe Hamida trial, and in that trial at the end in the closing arguments the judge said, look, this is a case where normally, you know, you bring forward in December of 2022 you apply you submit your lawsuit and all that, and it doesn't get heard until probably December of 2023 or maybe even December of 2024. You have all this time to discovery, witnesses, depositions, and all that stuff. You guys had like a week. That is crazy. And this is something, it's not, election law is not something that everybody practices. It's not a very popular, well, I don't know how popular it is in the law field, but it's not a very common thing. And you have to learn all new laws. You have to, you know, Arizona's laws are different than Florida's, which are different than Colorado's, which are different than Pennsylvania's. And so it's a very complicated thing, which you guys had to do. And the fact that you guys were able to pull it off and do what you guys did was absolutely incredible. So kudos to that. I want to jump into the slog files now, because this is something that I don't think anybody's seen yet. So let's go ahead and pull this up here.
This is crazy.
And I'm going to make it full screen like so right there. Now, do you want me to read this, or do you want to explain what this is before
I can explain what it is. And so the backdrop for this is that the defendants have repeatedly told the court that there were a few hiccups during the election, but that these problems were resolved early in the day, so nothing to see here. And the evidence that we had at trial were witness statements. We had over 200 declarations. And they were admitted into court. They're under oath. They're powerful. They showed that over 132 of 223 vote centers had problems. But necessarily in testimony, you can't get as granular as to and an overall perspective. I mean, it's just one individual witness's perspective of what happened at that time they were in the vote center. The slog files, the system log files, tell the whole story system-wide. So the system log files, which apply for every single tabulator at each of the 223 vote centers, and the tabulators at central count, we have those files now. And what this chart shows, this is broken up in half-hour increments. And to my left is the beginning at 6 a.m. You can see, and these are the number of ballot rejections across the board, the total ballot rejections by half hour. And it shoots up well past 7,000 immediately. Like as soon as the polls open, boom, chaos ensues. And it doesn't even drop off below 7,000 until 8 p.m. And so you see across the top there, the issues are never resolved.
This look at this chart, guys. So I can't zoom in on it. Let me see if I can make it like that. Oh, look, I'm covering me. That's kind of funny. Look, I'm there, and now I'm there. Huh. I could be right back in the interview with Kurt right here. So if you guys are looking at this big spike right here is 6 a.m. when the polls open is the first dot right here in the middle, that middle dot. The first dot that's off, it's 4,500. And that is the count of ballot insert failures. So the rejections that we watched. And it immediately jumps up to 4,500 rejections and then skyrockets to over 8,000. And then probably lingers like on average, like somewhere around 7,500 ballots every 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, there's 7,500 ballot rejections. That's unacceptable, guys. You know, go back to the beginning of this, you know, this interview when I was saying this is like saying you have a dead body and the first thing you need to do is find out, is it dead or not? And if it's dead, then you push it off to the left and you start doing all the things you do with a dead body, embalming it, preparing for funerals, whatnot, and notifying the family, all that stuff. How that body ended up dead is a whole separate topic from preparing the body. You don't say, hey, we need to figure out first if this body was murdered, who murdered it, keep it preserved until the trial and everything else. No, You go about figuring out how to deal with the body once it's been discovered that it's dead. That's what happened with this election. Once this happened, you can figure out why it happened in a separate argument, but that happened, period. End of conversation. It needs to be remedied. Katie Hobbs won her quote unquote won her election by 17,000 votes. There's well over 17,000 votes right here that are being rejected, voters being disenfranchised, ballots that are going into bin number 3, voters that are turning around and saying, well, fuck this, I can't wait this long. People that are pulling into the parking lot and saying, I can't even find a place to park. This is bonkers that this is what Kurt Olson and Carrie Lake and Brian Blem had to go through in order to prove that this election was stolen. It doesn't, I'm not saying it was deliberately stolen, but that election was not accurate, period.
And so this, once again, shows everybody, the court, everybody, that Maricopa has been misleading the public, has been misleading the court when they say these problems were resolved early in the day. The slog file data proves otherwise. Yeah. And this is an extraordinary development. There were over a total of 217,000 ballot rejections. Now, a ballot rejection, if you put your ballot in 4 times in the tabulator, that's 4 rejections. So a system log file records activity on the tabulators or any of its devices. So every event that occurs is recorded. And of the 217,000, I believe it's about a little over 180,000 are what we call non-voluntary rejections. There are some rejections that where somebody didn't fill out the ballot correctly, so they pulled it out. But the vast majority are rejections that occurred not due to the voter canceling their vote. So this shows that these problems were huge. They lasted the entire day, and that Maricopa is not telling the true story.
And so let me just make sure that people understand that what you're saying right here. I mean, you're talking about 7,000 ballot rejections, a 7,000 ballot rejection rate per half hour. Yeah, that is. I mean, just think of don't even worry about those ballots themselves. Think of how many people don't get to vote, or how many people show up and see a line that's stretched out to the next block and around the building, and then, up over the hill on the other side, and people got to walk all the way back there. These are people that are taking off an hour for lunch to go vote on their lunch break. These are people that, have to go pick up their kids at 3 p.m. And how many people drive by there and look at that and they're like, I'm not waiting on that line. I can't wait on that line. This is something that should not be the way it is. The EAC, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kurt, but I believe the EAC allows a rejection rate of 1 in 500 ballots, including voter error.
Correct.
I think I'm right on that. So you're looking at a rejection rate here of 7,000 ballots. We don't know the comparison number, but
it's over 235 times the EAC's allowed.
Oh my goodness. Just let that sink in. And by the way, I love old me versus new me. We're on the same page still, Brian. Good job, buddy. Can we fist bump? Can you fist bump me? Hey, fist bump. Hey, get your hands off your face. No. I'm so glad I still had those takes back then. Again, I'm not watching these before I air them here. 235 times. 235 times the allowable rejection rate under federal law.
I mean, it's not even close.
235 times the rejection rate allowable by the EAC. Yeah. Kurt, at what point are we going to say enough is enough? They give us this human error, technical glitch. It's a small little error. We got it fixed. Don't worry. Everything's fine now. You're looking here at a candidate in Carrie Lake. God bless her. You're looking at a candidate in Carrie Lake that was up 11 points, that her opponent wouldn't debate her. She absolutely destroyed her opponent in every facet of this election. And then you have all this crap happen to her. Oh man, I'm just, I get fired up when I see
it's frustrating, but look at what's happening, because all of this information is now being revealed. And it used to be the narrative was, I was involved back in the 2020. So I was one of the primary drafters of the complaint that Texas filed in the Supreme Court. I'll never forget that day. It was such a rush when 18 other states came in and joined Texas. It's a beautiful thing to see. And if you remember, the narrative was the most secure election in history. Fast forward 2 years, you don't hear that anymore. They're not even disputing it because we're getting the evidence. We haven't given up. We're never going to give up. And we're going to continue to expose the fraud and the cheating and the use of the machines and mail-in voting and everything else that's being done to rig our elections. And so we're winning the narrative war. And I hope next comes the courts. And that's where we are.
So on that note, Mr. Olson, I want to be respectful of your time. Give us, just an overview of where we go from here, what the next steps are in this case, and yeah, where we're going from here.
Well, we're waiting for the Court of Appeals is going into conference on February 1st. That's where the judges get together themselves and decide how they're going to, if they're going to talk about the case. Now, at that point, they may decide they have some questions, and they have the discretion to obviously order oral argument for the parties to appear to answer any unresolved issues, or they can just issue an opinion. And I think no matter which way they rule, whether it is for us or for the defendants, the case is going to go to the Arizona Supreme Court. And the Arizona Supreme Court yesterday, we had moved, when we filed our reply brief, it was the last day you could do this under the procedural rules, to file a petition to transfer the case immediately to the Arizona Supreme Court. And they denied that, but they noted that the Court of Appeals was moving expeditiously, and that they were looking forward to them to issue an order quickly. So they understand the exigency of these circumstances. And so I expect that we will be up before the Arizona Supreme Court in short order. It could be, I would think, a matter of weeks, if not maybe a month or something like that. But that's my hope and expectation.
Well, we are definitely looking forward to it. We'll be covering it over here on Badlands Daily as well as on the Gateway Pundit. Mr. Olson, any final words or thoughts? Any where can people follow you? Where can people get up to date on the case as we progress through this?
I am on Truth Social under my name, Kurt Olson. And in terms of words, of encouragement, you never give up. And the fact that people like you and everybody else are not giving up, that's what's driving the other side crazy. And this is a battle of wills. And like I said before, the narrative has completely shifted from the way it was 2 years ago. And that should tell you something. They no longer even can hide it anymore. And at some point, the dam will burst.
Amen, sir. Between the Project Veritas drop we got yesterday.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
That was incredible.
Did you see where?
All right, so now they're getting into the Act Blue, which we'll cover in another segment on this. I do have some closing thoughts. Before I do that, guys, let's be clear. Cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just linked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi staking rewards and real-world perks like cash back on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. And when it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head over to crypto.com today and grab some CRO. And let's make crypto great again. And I, myself, am a huge proponent of crypto. So, let's just hear the last little tidbit there. And then I'll give my closing thoughts after that.
Newsweek fact-checked Pfizer's own executive vice president in charge. I mean, they fact-checked him and said, I think it was undetermined or unverified. Like they couldn't verify what Pfizer's own executive was saying, that what they were doing in terms of doing gene manipulation. It's
unreal what we're seeing. I've been monitoring Google. If you type in Pfizer, what is it? Pfizer Project Veritas. If you Google Pfizer Project Veritas, for the last 12 hours, it's been an error message. And I've documented this. I documented it last night on a Twitter space, and I documented it again today on my Badlands Daily podcast, just to show people that Google is freaking out. They're trying to get ahead of this narrative and figure out how they're going to control it. And they can't control it anymore. They can't control the COVID narrative. They can't control the vaccine narrative. They're not going to be able to control the election narrative with everything that's come out about the FBI collusion, the DHS collusion, the EIISAC, and the Twitter portal, which Hobbs took advantage of in that election, everything that's coming out in this regard. And now, most importantly, where you guys are, that you're getting actual evidence on the record, on the court record, in a court of law. It's absolutely incredible. I 100% believe that the narrative's completely starting to flip in our direction, and we got to do it quick, because in 2024, that is going to be the election where it either goes, they just go all in and they completely screw over the American populace, or we actually get our way and we figure out the truth of what's going on.
Exactly.
Well, ironically, we did not figure out the truth in 2024. We did get our way, but we did not figure out the truth. And that man that was just in that podcast right there with me, Kurt Olson, is now a advisor to President Trump on elections. And so I think we need to pray for Kurt Olson, and we need to pray for Ed Martin, and we need to pray for Harmeet Dillon, and we need to pray for all the people that are working with them in this election. And we need to pray, of course, always for President Trump and for the people around him to do the right thing and to bring transparency back to our elections, bring integrity back to our elections. And I've got a feeling, you know, I have, you know, people that I talk to, and I think that we are going to see some movement in this very soon. And I'm confident. And I really feel like the more the people can rally behind this, that's exactly why I'm doing this show. This is why I'm doing a show that rehashes old talking points from 2 years ago, because I want people to see on YouTube what they couldn't see for the last 5 years. People that thought they were getting good information from YouTube, I want you guys to see what you were actually missing. And I can't say this enough, and it's always disheartening that you know, that I bust my ass. So many of us, and so many of you guys in the chat, you know, a lot of my audience are actively engaged in their elections. They're running grassroots organizations. They're doing audits at the local level. They're petitioning their local representatives. They're running for precinct chairman, committeemen, you know, the Dan Schultz strategy, the precinct strategy. And you guys are badasses. I love you guys, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. But most Americans are sleeping on this. Most Americans never see that video I showed earlier of all those rejections. A 12-minute video of people voting on 2 machines. And I think there were like five ballots that were accepted. Do you know how long that line gets? Incredibly long. And so, you know, it's really disheartening, because people, like I said earlier, people are going to be freaking out about, do I wear a red hat or do I wear a blue hat? It's like, bro, it doesn't matter. You wear whatever hat they tell you to put on your head. You wear whatever hat is best going to fit them. And that's disgusting. You know, a colleague of mine over at Badlands, and a fantastic follow on X, if you're not following already, and I'm sure most of you guys are, Shipwreck put out a post earlier today, and I saw it, and it caught my attention, because it was a meme of a plain red hat and a plain blue hat, and it asked at the bottom, which one do you think is the psyop, the red hat, the blue hat? And then in the very next post, she said the whole thing is a psyop. The red hat or the blue hat, it's all a fucking psyop. It's all a psyop. It is something designed to keep us at each other's throats while they go about and do the type of shit that we just uncovered in these last 3 videos that I played. And so I hope you guys, I really hope some of you guys share this video out. Again, I know I sound like a freaking click whore, and I hate doing that. I sound like a click whore. But I really think that what we're talking about here, and I know it's me talking about it, but I think what we're talking about here is the most important thing in our republic, bar none. There's nothing more important than this, not the shutdown, not, Trump versus MTG, Trump versus Massey, Israel, the war in Ukraine. None of that shit matters compared to our elections. Our elections are the foundation of all of it. It is the most important issue in our republic, and nothing is even close. And so I want to hang out with you guys just for a couple minutes here and get your feedback on this recap podcast and see if you guys like doing this, the coming in here and being able to see stuff that you may have seen 3 years ago if you've been with me this whole time. People like Don Shell, like Independent Many. I know you got kind of follow me on YouTube, but didn't cross over as much. But some of the other folks in there, Grease Monkey, I see. Truth Quest, huge one, has been following me. Flying Storm, been there the whole time. Let me just scroll through. And I recognize these names. Miss A. Watley, recognize you. David McKinney, definitely recognize that name. One person, one vote. I mean, of course. Maggravator, of course. These are people that are watching everything. Miss Rise Attire, one of the greatest. I'm rocking their hoodie right now. Shameless plug. Hey, Rise Attire, can you set me up with a promo code for my CanCon podcast? Because this is the coolest hoodie ever. I'm going to stand up and show you guys. This hoodie is the best because you're walking, like I wear it when I travel, right? And I'll be walking through the airport. It's Florida. It was the summer. So the only time I ever wear a hoodie is in the airport when I'm about to fly somewhere. And I'm wearing this hoodie and people will do this double check at me because they're like, what the frick is on that hoodie? And it's got this cool glitch pattern where if you're looking at it in person, it makes it look like it's blurry. Like it's blurring out on you. And so people stare at it. It's incredible. I love what Christina and Adrian have done with the Badlands merch that they're putting out and their merch in general. Rise Attire, check them out, guys. Support those, companies that are adjacent with us and aligned with us in this movement. And those two are badasses. I love those guys. But yeah, that's the thing. You can't get this. We're so focused on this stupid shit and we're not focusing on what really matters. Let's fix our elections. Let's find out truly once and for all. Let's find out what this country actually is. Is it a 50-50 country? Is it 60-40? Is it 70-30? Because I think it's closer to 70-30 than it is 50-50. And if we figure out, if we clean up our elections, and this is the most important part about cleaning up our elections. It can't just be the main general elections. We need to clean up the primaries as well. And we need to clean them up in a way that grassroots candidates can get engaged in the election and can have a fair shot at this. And not just, the Lindsey Grahams of the world or the John Thunes or the John Cornyn's or the Tom Tillises. The Mitch McConnells, where they dump millions of dollars so they're the brand recognition when everybody goes to vote. And they're like, oh, he's got an R next to his name. I know Mitch McConnell. I know Lindsey Graham. I know so-and-so. They're the popular candidates. No, fuck that. Fixing this country goes well beyond just the general election. We got to fix our primaries, and we got to get the candidates that actually represent us at the local level and get them in there. And then once we have, free and fair elections, and I think we'll get back to having more super majorities. Remember, we haven't had a super majority since 1965, I think, was the last super majority. There was a brief 2-month period where Obama had one between elections because there was a special election, and in the special election, the guy got seated right away. And so they had a super majority, the Democrats, for a little while, and they didn't do anything with it. Stupidly. But I think, Trump's been talking a lot about the filibuster, and I think we can do away with the filibuster to fix our elections, and then that's it. Put the filibuster back in there. I like the filibuster because it prevents stolen election Democrat senates and majority senates from changing the laws radically in this country, injecting more justices in the Supreme Court, taking away abortion, enforcing abortion, giving abortion rights to everybody, changing gun laws and restricting gun laws. Like, this is the things they would do if the filibuster was gone and we didn't have free and fair elections, and every other, off year, the GOP wins this year, and then the Democrats win this year, and then the GOP wins this year, and then we'll get 2 years of straight Democrats, and then we'll get a year of GOP followed by a year of Democrats, and then 2 years of GOP. It's fucking bonkers how stupid this is when we're voting on black box voting machines and have massive discrepancies in our elections, like Kurt Olson pointed out here, like I pointed out in Dallas County with that first video. Like, we're going to continue pointing out on this podcast right here, the Recap Podcast. And I hope you guys will share this show out and just convince people to listen to it while they're driving in their car. Okay? Listen to the podcast that me and Alpha and Ash and Mark Cook and Colonel Sean Smith did earlier today. It's going to air, I think, on Tuesday. Listen to these shows and you'll see this is the important thing. This is the most important thing in our constitutional republic. New Case, May 60. These are people that have been here. Mieska, Michigan Yeska. These are people that have been here. Chris Jacques. Like, I see so many familiar faces. And that's, no offense, guys. I love you guys. But that's the unfortunate thing, is that all the people I'm seeing in the chat are familiar faces. We should be seeing unique people popping up here. All right. Guys, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Just real quick, again, I didn't pose this in the chats. If you haven't chatted all night, pick up your phone, your keyboard, whatever you're listening on, and just real quick, go in the chat. And if you want me to keep doing this recap series where I do exactly what we did tonight with other shows that I've done in the past, press 1. Okay? And if you don't want me to do this, if you think this is stupid, not that you don't want me to do it, but if you think this was stupid and this didn't really do anything for you, press 2. And be honest. Be honest. I'm trying to vet you guys and kind of not vet you guys, but poll you guys to see if this is something that you want me to keep doing. Okay. So far, so good. All right. Because it helps me out too, guys. I'm not going to lie. There is a mutual benefit, like a secondary benefit to this. And, on Rumble, we have to have so many hours a month. And so this is a good way for me to be able to get these hours in as well and go through and find some quality shows to put back out there for the people who may not have seen this. So I love doing this. My wife, all credit to her for this idea. It was 100% her idea. And, she's my backbone. So you guys don't tell her I told you that. Do not tell her I told you that. She's not watching right now. She just got home a little bit ago. So I'm going to end here and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I just did my first reaction video. People took to it pretty good. I told them it was your idea, but it is what it is. But it was her idea. It was very, very smart of her. So I'm very lucky. I'm a very, 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 very lucky man. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, thank you for everybody. Let me just check real quick and make sure that I didn't have any Rumble rants. I do have one Rumble rant. I read that earlier. That was Redneck Renegade 03 that said, how about them Packers, baby? Go Pack, go. Agree 100%. Hopefully I'm about to go watch the Detroit Lions get their ass kicked so we can get a spot. Chicago Bears, man. 7-3 now. They just beat the Vikings. The Bears are legit. Caleb Williams, he's legit. He's a force to be reckoned with. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys very soon. I'm going to be doing this again soon. So make sure you hit the notification, subscribe, jump over to YouTube. If you're on Rumble, jump over to YouTube, subscribe over on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, jump over to Rumble, subscribe on Rumble, and follow me on X at CanConActual. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the fortune cookie country pay for this.